Now that the results of the 2014 midterm elections are in, it's time for a sober look at what they mean, particularly the large gains made by Republicans. Here at St. Francis College, two experienced political commentators went head-to-head with opposing perspectives. Conservative author Stanley Kurtz was an appropriate voice for the Republican viewpoint. One of his books named Obama as radical in chief.
Now, it's sometimes said that this midterm election was a kind of fluke. It's true that the broader and more liberally inclined electorate tends to come out in presidential years, and this does help Democrats. But most analysts agree that Republicans at least began to cut into the Democratic advantage this year with minorities and young people.
At the other end of the spectrum was Richard Brodsky, a Democrat who served on the New York State Assembly for 28 years.
The Republican Party and the conservative movement stand for a failed economic vision that's failed everywhere it's been tried. It's failed in Europe, it's failed in the United States, it's failed in New York, and it's called austerity or supply-side economics.
I think Mr. Kurtz and Mr. Brodsky brought up a lot of important issues, especially in today's era. And one of the main things that brought me here was the economic issue, and I think that both parties explained very well on the issue.
I thought I'd get an understanding about what's going on realistically of what would change because of the recent elections, but it didn't really meet my expectations because it was more of talking points on both sides of both parties. We got the liberal perspective that everything's going to be okay. We got the conservative perspective that everything is changing now.
I asked Mr. Brodsky if he thought the changes in the New York State Assembly had any effect on the chance of getting the education tax credit passed, which would provide aid to public and parochial schools.
It's unlikely to be put into the budget, which is where the governor has the real power to affect the outcome. If it doesn't make the budget, then I think its chances on the floor as a standalone are not great. I don't think anything really fundamentally changed in Albany in terms of the power relationships. But if you believe in it, this is the year to go out and try to make it happen.
Is this election a repeat of '94, or do you think this is truly a movement to the right in this country?
There has been enough of a break toward the right that it would be realistic to think that this might be something that continues, but it is very far from guaranteed. I really think it's a toss-up right now, but the Republicans are much more in play. This idea that somehow demographics make it inevitable that Democrats will win on and on into the future, I think that has been debunked.
While this meeting of views was not as decisive as our recent elections, we can be sure that both parties have a lot of convincing to do by 2016. Reporting for Currents, I'm Konrad Aderer.